In the last video, we introduced the concept of blocks. We looked at some core Drupal blocks and how they work, specifically how they work with different themes when you have different themes enabled on your site. And then we wrote a simple function which basically declared our block to the Drupal blocks administrator. So if you go into the blocks admin screen now, you see a block for Facebook posts, and we can actually, take this block and put it into a sidebar and save our blocks admin screen, and notice that we now have a Facebook post block in our first sidebar. However, if we go to the home page, notice nothing actually shows up yet. All we've done is write the block info hook, and all that does is declare the block. It doesn't actually put content into the block. To put content into the block, we need to write a couple more functions. Generally, for rendering the content of a block, you use a function called hook block view. So here's the Drupal API page for that hook. And the way this works, and there's an example here, is that you basically define a delta for the block, which is a variable. And in the case of that specific variable, you stick some content to show into that block. So that's what we're going to do. This is one type of example that you could use that's defined here at the API. The example we're going to use is actually going to define another function that we're then going to write to show the content within this hook block view. So let's go over to our code, and I have some hook block view code here that we can use. So let's copy this function and let's drop that into our module file directly underneath the hook block info. And so let's look at this. So this function, the name of our module, underscore block view, and we're going to define a delta. We're going to switch on that delta, and we're going to make a case statement. So what we're doing here is we're setting the variable to be posts, and we're saying, in the case of this variable, we want to define another variable for the block subject, and that's going to be Facebook feed block posts. Notice that we're wrapping our string in the T function so that this particular subject line can be translatable later if you have translation modules installed. Additionally, we're defining some content. So this is really where the kind of meat of this hook block view happens. We're going to define content to show. But what we're going to do is we're going to reference another function here that's related to the delta that we're calling. And the function that we're going to call is, again, the name of our module, fbFeedBlock underscore block contents. So it's nice to do it this way because you can keep your functions separate in terms of exactly the functionality that they have and that they're doing on the site. So all our hook block view is doing is it's just defining the function we're going to use to show content inside of the block. We could have, of course, written all of that out within the hook block view function, but it's nice to kind of keep that code separate, and it simplifies things, and also it helps when you're trying to debug something because you can figure out if the issue's happening when the break happens at the end of this hook block view, or if the issue's happening with the actual specific block contents function that we're going to write. So we're just going to return the block at that point and then write a break. So this is our hook block view function. So we can go ahead and save this now and come back to our site and do a flush cache. And at this point, you're actually going to get an error. You will get a white screen, and that's because you recall from before when we reference another function and the function hasn't actually been added to our module file yet, you basically can crash your site. This is very good to know because obviously you would never want to implement a half-written module on a production site. So you would definitely only want to do this in a development environment. It is good to see the effect of doing this where you add a hook block view, it's calling another function. Drupal doesn't know that that function exists and it's not there yet. So basically we just consume all the memory on the site because it's trying to find a function that's non-existent. So again, just a good thing to know is whenever you have a module installed on a production site, you want to make sure that it does have all the functions that it's defining. But we do have a good step in the right direction here. We definitely want to have the hook block view written so that we can then move on to writing our function. So what we can do right now is not worry about that white screen. We're going to fix it in the next video. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and write the block contents function that this block view function is calling.